recognized me when I was there, but I think it all depends what kind of crowd you're going out into. And I think, you know, he's more recognizable than I am. So it all depends where we are and what we're doing. But most of the time, no, we can't go out.
Mm. Well, I guess that's just the downside of all this fame.
Yeah.
Now, Jordan, I want to ask you about the group's beginnings, because some people know the story of Maurice Starr, who's the man who was more or less advertising for a group. And you guys won the audition in a way, the 5 of you. How did this happen to you? I mean, had you wanted to be singers? Because you were just really young kids on the streets in Boston, weren't you? I mean, you weren't actively looking for a career.
Yeah, we were just young kids on the streets. Basically, what Maurice was looking for was just young kids who were, you know, creative, artistic, and it didn't matter, you know, what kind of art you were in. You could be doing graffiti or whatever, just something that was artistic, and you know, you had a drive to do something rather than just hang in the street. And I was a break dancer, so you know, I could always dance and move, and he liked that. You know, he's seen that I was, you know, I liked art and dance and stuff like that. So, you know, and also I could sing from the choir, so.
Yeah, I want to hear about the choir, but first I guess we should acknowledge that you two have a Canadian connection. Your parents are Canadian, and your 2 older sisters were born.
Yeah, actually, me and Jordan and 2 of our other brothers, we're the only Americans in our family. Everybody else is out here, and all our cousins are here tonight, so it's nice.
And you started off singing in the church choir.
Yeah.
And that's where you got your love of music then?
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a bit about all that's been said about you being a crossover band? You know, that you've been masterminded by this incredibly smart black man who wanted to find white kids who would sing hip, pseudo-black music.
You know, Maurice was probably thinking that, you know, it would be a big hit if 5 white kids sang black music, but a lot of people think that, you know, he taught us how to dance black, and, you know.
And did he?
No,
he didn't.
No.
Because you knew how to dance already.
Yeah.
People think, you know, that he gave us soul.
But you had it already. Yeah. Well, I guess, though, that maybe in the times that you grew up in the city that you grew up in near Boston, maybe you're just more colorblind than a lot of other people.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. I mean, me and John grew up in a totally mixed household. We had foster kids ever since we were little. My brother Chris, who was black.
Okay.
Cousins are black, and my brother's been with my family longer than I have, so, you know, Chris. So, we did grow up colorblind, and it really stuns us to, you know, when people come off with these funny remarks, you know, saying how you guys are just white kids who were manipulated by a black guy, you know, stuff like this.
Now, I want to ask you about drugs, because you're very strong on your say no to drugs message. Now, where does this come from? You know, guys your age, you think maybe it'd be a little grittier.
Yeah. Well, you know, ever since we started, we actually started out doing a lot of shows for our governor in Massachusetts.
Mr. Dukakis.
Doing anti-drug shows.
Mr. Dukakis, that would be.
Our future president, maybe someday. And, you know, we just thought it was a good idea. We began to see that kids were relating to us and were telling us, you know, that they don't do drugs because we don't do drugs. You know, and I think when somebody's in such an influential position as us, you might as well do good, you know, positive things.
I think it also came from my background also because, you know, us being from Boston in a inner-city neighborhood, Dorchester, we've seen, you know, what drugs can do to people, and we've seen what we could do by staying away from drugs. You know, we've been successful in everything just by staying away from drugs.
I guess the mothers of the fans must just love you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. You know, they compliment us a lot and thank us a lot, and, you know, that makes us feel real good.
Yeah. Now, speaking of your fans, you've got phone lines that are always ringing off the hook. How do you handle this onslaught of mail and phone calls and all this attention?
Well, you know, it can get annoying at sometimes when your mailbox at home is full of all fan letters and you don't know which is a letter from your grandmother or which is a bill and you don't pay a bill.
You don't get a letter from your grandmother.
And, you know, but I think you just have to put that all aside and understand that, you know, this won't last forever, and the people that are sending you all these letters are the people, they're the reason why we're here today, you know, and you have to be thankful for that.
Yeah.
Now, you say it won't last forever, and I'm sure you've heard the comparisons, of course, with these other, teen idols. Bay City Rollers is one that everybody brings up all the time. The Monkees, they were a kind of prefab group. And here you are, barely 20. You must think sometimes chances are it's not going to last all that long.
Yeah. And, we know that it might not, but then at the same time it may. So right now we just take it day by day, and, we're having a lot of fun with it. And if it ends tomorrow, then we still had the satisfaction of coming this far.
Okay, we know that your fans know every single thing about you, but could you tell us maybe one thing that we don't know, and we'll pass it on to Canada for you here?
Jordan has new braces.
I didn't shave in about 3 days.
Me neither.
Okay, well, I guess you heard it here first. We'll have to live with that.
Okay.
Thanks for joining
All
us.
right, thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And we'll be back with...